Welcome to the Godot BootCamp lesson on custom entities and post-hook cloud code scripting. In this lesson, we're going to create an aggregate leaderboard using a custom entity. Each player will then submit scores on behalf of their country. A cloud code post-hook script will be triggered every time a score is posted to the main leaderboard to update the country leaderboard. An aggregate country leaderboard isn't possible using a standard leaderboard. Fortunately, we can implement the country leaderboard with custom entities. An important note before we continue, custom entities are only available on a brainCloud Plus plan. As a result, this account has been upgraded to a Development Plus plan for this lesson. On a Plus plan, we need to unlock our app to make changes. Enter the app name and then click Verify. On the left, click Design, then Cloud Data, followed by Custom Entities. On the right, click the Create button. Enter an entity type name, an identifier, and a data template. Click Create. Click the newly created Country Leaderboard custom entity. On the right, click View, then click Edit. Click Custom Indexes. Click Create. A custom index can greatly speed up the retrieval of your custom entities. Give the index a name, then give the index one or more keys. A value of -1 specifies that the index will order the elements in descending order. Set the options for the custom index. When done, click Create. On the left, click Cloud Code, then Scripts. Click the plus button to create a new script. Name the script Post to Leaderboards Post Hook. Ensure that this script is not client callable. Delete the initial parameters and leave them blank. Click Create. In the log debug JSON method, add the text post hook, then click Save. Under Cloud Code, click API Hooks. An API hook allows you to attach a cloud code script to any brainCloud client API. When creating an API hook, you have the choice between pre and post hooks. Pre-hook scripts are executed before the API call they are hooked into, whereas post-hook scripts are executed after the API call. For this API hook, select the leaderboard service. Then select the post score to leaderboard operation. From the pre-post dropdown list, select post. Finally, from the script dropdown list, select the post to leaderboards post hook script. Enter a pair of script parameters. These are passed into the post hook script. Click Save. Click Scripts. Then select the post to leaderboard script. Click the debug button on the right. Click the quick auth button. This will authenticate us the same way the API Explorer does. Click Execute. This executed the post to leaderboard script and provided the parameters below. It also executed the post hook script, which doesn't do much right now other than log the input data. In the logs, notice that the post hook script ran twice. It's important to see the data that's available to us before we rate the post hook script. Let's inspect the first post hook script's input log. The post hook script gets a lot of data. It receives all the data from the post score to leaderboard request, including the leaderboard ID, score, and nickname. This data appears as the calling message object. In this log, we can see that the score was posted to the main leaderboard. There's also the leaderboard ID and collection name parameters that were set up in the API hook. In the second post hook script input log, you'll notice that the data is practically the same as the first one, with one notable difference. The calling message data contains a different leaderboard ID, daily. In the post hook script that we are about to write, we want to ensure that the logic only gets executed once, not twice, so we'll need to check that the leaderboard ID that's passed in is main. On the left, click the Explorer button. Open the post to leaderboards post hook script. Then click Edit. Remove the debug log. Then declare a variable for the country code. Write an if statement that compares the calling message's leaderboard ID to the API hook's leaderboard ID parameter. If you recall, the API hook's leaderboard ID parameter is set to main. Get the service proxies for the custom entity service and the player state service. Request the user state from the player state service. If that request was successful, get the user's country code. Then check to see if the country code is defined or not. If the country code is not defined, mark the response success flag to false. There's nothing more we can do without the country code. If the country code is valid, then we need to use it to see if there's a custom entity that already exists for that country code. The request we're going to use is called getEntityPageRequest. In case you're not sure what's needed for a request, we can always check out the API reference. Scroll down to the usage section. You'll notice that the API reference even has code samples to help you build your cloud code scripts. Now that we know the parameters needed for the request, let's head back to the brainCloud portal and finish the script. Declare the entity type, which is the post hook's collection name parameter, and then set up the context parameter. Invoke the custom entity services getEntityPageRequest, pass in the entity type and the context as arguments. Check the response to see if there's a valid custom entity. If there isn't, then one will have to be created. To do that, set up the custom entity's data, including the country code and score. Set the ACL to 2, this stands for public read-write access. Declare 2 local variables for time to live and is owned. Make the create entity request, passing in the entity type, the country JSON data, the ACL, the time to live, and the is owned value as arguments. If the request was successful, log the response. In the event that the getEntity page request returned a valid custom entity, we instead need to invoke the custom entity service's increment data request. First, set up the field's JSON data to set up the score value. Then invoke the custom entity service's increment data request, passing in the entity type, the entity ID, and the field's JSON data as the arguments. If the request was successful, log the response. Set the response success flag to true, then save the script. Click the Post to Leaderboard script. Click Debug, then click Quick Auth. Click Execute. Notice in the logs the posthook script ran. We know this because we can see that the read player state request, the get entity page request, and the create entity request were all made successfully. Click Cloud Data, then Custom Entities. Click the country leaderboard entity type. Click Monitor. Click the entity. This page displays the entity's details, including the entity data. We can see that we have 1 score posted for Canada. On the left, click Design, then Cloud Code, followed by Scripts. Select the Post to Leaderboard script. Click Debug. Before clicking Execute, modify the score parameter, just so that it's something different. Click Execute. Our score's been posted. Click Cloud Data, then Custom Entities. Click the country leaderboard entity type. Click Monitor. Click the entity. Notice that the entity has 2 scores totaling 19,000. Let's post some more. On the left, click Design, then Cloud Code, followed by API Explorer. In the Parameters section, modify the country code from Canada to US. Click Execute to authenticate. Once authenticated, click Scripts. Select the Post to Leaderboard script. Click Debug. Notice that the session ID from the API Explorer persisted here. Before clicking Execute, modify the score parameter. Click Execute. We have now posted a score to the country leaderboard for the US. Click Cloud Data, then Custom Entities. Click the country leaderboard entity type. Click Monitor. Notice that we have a second entity in the country leaderboard. Click the entity with the US identifier. Notice that the US entity has 1 score totaling 12,000. We are just about done in the brainCloud portal. In a moment, we'll set up the custom leaderboard in the example game. First though, let's look at the request that we'll use to get the entity data in the API Explorer. On the left, click Design, then Cloud Code, followed by API Explorer. From the Service drop-down list, select Custom Entity. From the Operations drop-down list, select Get Entity Page. Format the parameters. Set the entity type to country leaderboard. Remove the search criteria. Set the sort criteria. Click Execute. The data that's returned contains an item array. Each element represents an entity in the country leaderboard. The returned data is also in a sorted state, so Canada's entity is first, followed by the US. Navigate to the Godot editor. Run the game. Click brainCloud, then Leaderboards. Notice that the Leaderboards dialog has been modified. We've added an extra button to the segment control to display the country leaderboard. Clicking the country segment, you'll notice that the country scores are not displayed. Stop the game and open Visual Studio Code. Declare a constant to represent the country leaderboard ID. Declare a constant for the custom entity type. Save the file and then navigate to the network.cs file. Scroll down and find the attached email identity method. Below it, declare a public method called request country leaderboard. Notice that this method takes in the same callback delegates as the request leaderboard method. In this method, we're going to parse the custom entity data and create a leaderboard object with the data. As far as our game is concerned, the country leaderboard is a regular old leaderboard complete with a leaderboard ID. In the body of the method, check to see if the user is authenticated. If the user is not authenticated, format an error message and then invoke the handle request error method, passing in the error message and the error delegate as the arguments. If the user is authenticated, declare success callback lambda. In the body of the lambda, log the response data. Deserialize the JSON response data into a dictionary called response. From the response dictionary, parse the data dictionary. From the data dictionary, parse the results dictionary. From the results dictionary, parse the leaderboards array. Declare a list of leaderboard entry objects. Then declare a few local variables. Loop through each element in the leaderboards array. Parse the leaderboard element dictionary. Then parse the leaderboard data dictionary. Set the rank, then parse the nickname and the time in milliseconds. Convert the time to seconds. Using the parse data, create and push a new leaderboard entry object onto the list of leaderboard entry objects. Once all the leaderboard entries have been parsed, create a leaderboard object, passing in the country leaderboard ID constant and the list of leaderboard entries as the arguments. Invoke the leaderboard manager's addLeaderboard method, passing in a reference to the leaderboard. If the success callback delegate is not null, it will be invoked, passing in a reference to the leaderboard object as the argument. Next, declare failure callback lambda. In the body of the lambda, format an error message. And then invoke the handler request error method, passing in the error message and the error delegate as the arguments. Set up the JSON context data. Invoke brainCloud's custom entity services getEntityPageRequest, passing in the entity type constant, the JSON context, and the success and failure callback lambdas as the arguments. Save the file and then navigate to the game.cs file. Scroll down and find the onAuthenticationRequest completed method. Invoke the network's request country leaderboard method. Scroll down and find the onPostScore request completed method. Invoke the network's request country leaderboard method. Save the file and then navigate to the leaderboard dialog.cs file. In the onCountryScore clicked method, replace the statement with the to-do comment after it, and in its place invoke the setLeaderboardData method, passing in the country leaderboard ID constant as the argument. Save the file and then compile the code. If the code compiles successfully, open the Godot editor. Run the game. Click brainCloud, then click Leaderboards. You'll notice that the country leaderboard now displays the scores for the US and Canada. Let's play the game and try to up Canada's aggregate score. From the main menu, click Endless Mode. To save time, video playback has been sped up. The game is over and our score has been posted. The post-hook script was executed on the server, and our score was added to Canada's custom entity entry. Part 1 of combining brainCloud requests via Cloud Code script is the next lesson in the Godot BootCamp.